Welcome to Dress Stories. This is an unusual situation where we are doing a part 2. And if you haven't seen part 1 already, we urge you to go run, turn it on and watch it. But you can also just settle in and watch our part 2. And this is our fabulous guest, Sheila. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Part 1, we really did a deep dive into kind of your growing up and also accessories. So I think this episode will talk a little bit more about your clothing and everything. So why don't we start with the question of how your community or your background has shaped the way that you dress or how you express yourself through fashion?
I think I touched on this a little bit about my growing up with my mother, who was somewhat of a fashionista and artist or creative in her own right. And so that was part of it. And then just the way my life evolved with, being in a very buttoned down profession where really there was no room for, demonstrating any kind of creative impulses, except perhaps a little bit in the work. It was just an outlet, and just the way my life evolved, lots of interesting people, it seemed to be floating through it. And at one point in our home, we had a Japanese professor staying with us for part of the year, every year for 12 years. And so as a result of that experience, I became a deal. It is a big deal. He really influenced the way our home was at that time. And we visited Japan in the time that we knew him. And we learned a lot about the Japanese culture and the Japanese aesthetic, and it just appealed to me so much that I became quite entranced with literature from Japan, with clothing from Japan. The first time I went, I came home with arms full of kimonos. I gave them to friends, and I still have some of them. And just slowly over the years, that became a real interest in the designers from Japan and the minimalist approach to clothing and enduring fabrics and things that you would buy and keep year over year. So I would say that really informed what I would describe now as maybe the aesthetic that I appreciate and the clothing that I like to wear. And over the years, it's become more and more minimalist with a bit of more of a focus on structure and shape and then accessories to go with that.
Well, as a good example, one of your favorite designers would be Issey Miyake, right?
Yes, Issey Miyake. And
that's very architectural.
Very architectural, and as I understand it, environmentally friendly, like the fabrics that are used. It's meant some of these pieces to last a lifetime. And in fact, I think I have everything I've ever bought in the main line, like not in the secondary or subsidiary lines, but in the main Issey Miyake lines, the things designed by Issey Miyake. I've got everything that I have ever bought. And in fact, a big treat was to go to the flagship store, which is in Soho in New York, and just see the amazing designs that he has produced. He's now, unfortunately, no longer with us, but it's all architectural. And to walk into that showroom is to walk into an art gallery, really. The fabrics are beautiful. The designs are beautiful. It's, how can I say, intersexual in the sense that you can go into the men's, quote, part and be as comfortable wearing those clothes as the women's clothes. Some of them, of course, but it's gender neutral, perhaps is a better word. And so then I got interested in some of the other Japanese designers like Comme des Garçons, which also is, a little bit edgy and out there, but
pretty edgy, yeah.
Pretty edgy, but, really interesting. So I would say that the Japanese designers are my favorite, and some of the fabrics that they have, the indigo dyes, the textiles, just beautiful things. And the what can I say? You know it if you see it. You know that it's done by a Japanese artisan, that they've done the block printing or they've done the dyeing.
I love that. And the indigo.
The indigo and the kimonos. And I like to repurpose things. That's another thing that I do. So recently I had found some beautiful wedding kimonos at auction and at a vintage store in Victoria. And I decided the textiles were so beautiful, so hand woven, that I would dismantle them and frame them, make them into an art piece.
Oh, I'd love to see pictures of that.
And so I just thought it was, and some people might find that sacrilegious, but it's really just not functional. And textiles do deteriorate, of course. So it seems to me if you could make something useful and beautiful from them, then it's all okay, But I couldn't use those giant kimonos that I bought, and they were going begging, like nobody was buying them, like the one at the art
I had
auction.
one years ago. No, I couldn't give it away.
You couldn't give it away because people don't know what to do with it. It takes up a lot of space. So in consultation with the woman who deals with these kind of fabrics, I have now, one is at the framers right now. I mean, you've seen it. I showed you this piece. It's just an incredible kaleidoscope of color, hand woven. And another one that is red roses embossed on white silk. And
wow.
The artist or the artisan who created this piece has her signature on the piece when I started to take it apart myself, because this part too is going to be framed. The bulk of it is going to be framed, and then the sleeves will be used for something else. So anyway, I like to repurpose things so that they can be appreciated by people, and especially if nobody wants them, then you really feel like if you can turn that into something beautiful, then everybody can, everybody has something to enjoy from it. Everybody in your circle or whoever has the opportunity to see it. So I don't have any compunctions about taking something that doesn't fit or taking a piece of fabric and sewing or having somebody about. I don't sew anymore, but I do have people, I have a fabulous couture designer, dressmaker, seamstress in Edmonton here that most of us know.
Her name is also Angela.
Yeah, Angela, but I don't feel comfortable saying exactly who she is. But anyway, so I work with her. Sometimes I find some beautiful fabrics and take them to her, and she can work from a picture. She can work from an existing dress, and she'll make something beautiful. And she feels wonderful, and I feel wonderful. So it's our creative thing.
Well, the Japanese, I'm sure, they're, with sashiko, the visible mending and that kind of thing, where there's something, a big gaping hole, and they just put another piece of fabric underneath and then do beautiful embroidery over top. Or there's that other technique where they take a broken piece of china and put pour gold gilding into it and make it into just another beautiful piece. So I'm sure you dismantling a kimono is all within
the realm of the Japanese aesthetic. I think it is.
Yeah.
I feel.
So, since I met Sheila, she has always tried on clothing or tried on items and said, oh, if I cut the sleeves off, if I do this, and if I cut this off, and if I add this, which is, I love that about you, because had you not chosen your career, which thankfully you did, but you probably would have been a designer of some sort, and you brought a couple pieces, and I think they're genius. So let's see this. When I picked up that piece, I said, wow. Okay, so tell us the story with this piece. This is just stunning.
Well, and I've worn it so much. So this began life as a dress, a Dries dress I bought on First Dibs. That over time, it just didn't fit. I don't know why. It just didn't fit. But I loved the design of it. And so I took it to Angela, the tailor, and I had, at the time, one of the first row dresses that I ever bought. And it was this amazing flowing skirt. But it was attached really to a T-shirt, and it just didn't do the skirt justice. So I took these two pieces, and I went to Angela and I said, look, I need to put them together. And look at that. Then it turned into this beautiful dress, which I have worn so much and on so many occasions. And
so if Dries is watching, because, or Mary Kate and Ashley, I mean, this is, when I saw this, I thought this was how it was first designed, because it's just extraordinary. It also has a Issey Miyake vibe to it, because
it does, because of the pleats. Right. Beautiful. And the whole, my understanding of what Dries does is the fabrics are just out of this world. And sometimes an entire show will be like embossed brocade clothing, like the fabrics are out of this world. And this is an old piece. This is probably 20 years old, this dress. But, you know,
Spectacular.
sadly, I think he's retired now.
I'll just leave this here just because I want to be next to it. It's so beautiful. And then you've got a velvet piece. What's the story with that?
So
that is so your color.
And it's so what I do. Because I had this Rick Owen jumper or dress, just a plain sheath, and I just wore it to death. And I loved it so much, but I could never find it again. And so since originally buying it probably 25 years, maybe 20 years ago, I have had a tailor remake it 4 different times.
Wow.
Because of course you can see it's silk velvet, so that's not going to last forever. So this is not the original. This is one that was recently made for me, but it's the kind of thing you can wear anywhere. You wear it to the opera, or you can wear it to a dinner party, or you can wear it to visit Angela on Saturday afternoon.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Anyways, so that's what I like to do. I like to find these exotic fabrics. And I was visiting my daughter in New York, and she took me to the garment district, or showed me where the garment district was. And so I just wandered for a while among all the shops and all the bolts and bolts of fabrics. You can't find that here anymore in Edmonton, but
we have a few customers that actually will buy fabric online. And I think, how? I don't know how. I mean, we're such tactile people. I don't know how the one woman had said she has a very good relationship with that fabric supplier and she knows her aesthetic. But still, half the experience is seeing it all and the array of colors and the depth of color and all of that.
Right.
You know, and I miss Chintz and Company so much. I mean, over the years, I would go there just to have a breather from whatever it was I was doing in an intense day and just look at the fabric and imagine what could be done with it. You know,
it does something to our brains.
Yeah. No, it's just a pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so that was one of the greatest losses ever to the city, is to lose that. You know, we talk about, purist things with vintage clothing as well. And people will say, oh, it's vintage, I shouldn't shorten it, or I shouldn't. And we always say, no, it's keep it in circulation. It needs a new party. And maybe a maxi dress was appropriate in the 70s. Or maybe you need to have a midi dress now, or a mini dress, or whatever the case may be. And as long as you're still wearing it and you're taking it out on the town, I think that's the most important.
Agreed.
So we've also had some circular clothing that has come and gone. And I think that this circular piece is so great. Yeah, because...
Oh, no, this is not we've had 2 of these, you and I.
You had the gold silk.
Right, that's right. The gold silk one that I brought to you because I thought it was too flamboyant and where would I ever wear it? And so I brought it here. And it's Romeo Gili, who is really one of my favorite creatives in the world. And so I had originally found the gold piece at a place, a most unusual place in Italy, in Milan, where designers and set designers come to select old clothing and fabric and so on for films and movies.
Wow.
And so
I need to go there.
You need to go there. So just to look, like the place is 2 stories, and just to browse through. So that's where I bought the original one, the gold one, with the big collar and everything. And I just couldn't bring myself to wear it. And so I brought it here, and I think somebody happily has it now. But then when Angela and I were happened to be in Los Angeles at the same time, there was a vintage, by Cameron show from
a big vintage
show from they do it apparently on the East Coast in the States and on the West Coast, and they do it.
A Current Affair, it was called.
Current Affair. Okay, so we arrived in this gorgeous old building in the middle of Los Angeles, and we met up, and they handed us a cocktail. we we spent a good part of, I think it was Saturday afternoon, enjoying ourselves, looking at all the things. But who in the world would ever think that you would find a vintage collector that would have nothing, well, practically nothing except Romeo Gigli?
And that was at the end of the day.
Yeah, it was at the end of the day. So we indulged anyway. And so this beautiful, it's like an opera coat, but you could wear it on the street in the right city.
And that velvet is just extraordinary.
Gorgeous velvet. And it's like a cocoon coat, really, is how you would describe it.
Like a Chinese cocoon coat.
Yeah. So really, anyway, that was really a fun day that we had. Oh my God.
So I know that you weren't born here, but how do you think Edmonton as a city has shaped who you are and how you're, or if it has, I don't know if it has or not, but how do you think it has influenced your style or informed who you are?
Well, I
a big question.
Kind of see Edmonton as a diamond in the rough. I think that, especially when I was young, I'm quite a bit older than you are, but when I was young, there was so much opportunity here, so much life in the downtown. Great restaurants, places where you could go to shop for beautiful things, arts, everything. And it's undergone kind of a bit of we're in a dormant stage, shall we say, right now.
That's such a kind word.
So yeah. So I think it's given me a lot of opportunity. And in part as a result of my work, I had a lot of opportunity to travel. And I would live my life in such a way that there was always the opportunity to go beyond Edmonton, to go elsewhere, to sort of feed the creative side of myself. So if I had lived somewhere else, I might not have felt that pressing need to travel, the pressing need to see and go to galleries and go to New York and do all these things. I think there's a lot of intensity here. People work extremely hard. All these years, very, very productive. Very strong work ethic, but there's also an ability to earn a good living for many people. And there's the opportunity to, indulge yourself a little bit, at least in some of these things. And what I'm describing here doesn't necessarily require a great deal of money. I'm talking about, finding things, finding secret little places in the world where you can be creative about your purchases. And secondhand is part of that. Consignment is part of that. Markets. Every city I go to, I try to be there on a Saturday so that I can go to the market and see what's happening in that city, So occasionally it's fun to walk down Madison Avenue and see what's happening at the fashion houses. But to be, perfectly frank about it, it has gotten way too expensive. I think that conglomerate that has gobbled up all those small fashion houses, LB, they have, and I've read about this recently, they've priced themselves out of the market. Who wants to spend that kind of money on fashion and design? I mean, very few people can. And why would you want to? Everything looks the same and it's all gilded. It's all gold and schlocky, So it's just not that interesting. I think that you can really find interesting and beautiful things by going to the secondary market and being creative and making things yourself or finding ways to have things made, to indulge in that way without spending a lot to do it.
As a kid, I grew up in a lower income family, and for me to find my identity and my individuality was about shopping secondhand. And I have this picture which is so funny. I'll have to show it to you one day. I have the worst perm on the planet, but I'm wearing this amazing 1940s skirt suit, with the shoulders and the waist, and it looks like Terry Mugler or something like that. And I would have picked that up for next to nothing. And you see that with people who are creative and who it's not about, yes, there is, as we get older, I think our tastes change depending on our income level too. Mm-hmm. But the real creative knows no price tag, and
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if you could go into anybody's closet, is there anybody that you would love to just see? Was there anybody that you just thought, man?
You know who was a fashion icon in this city and so sadly passed away here in the last month is Alexis Schloss. She was amazing. And she collected vintage too.
Yeah,
and you did. She had a beautiful and enduring style. And I was on a human rights committee with her at the university for a long time. And it was a light bulb moment for me. We met for lunch one day and she was dressed entirely in cream cashmere with the shawl. I thought, who looks like this in Edmonton? Like, she was a beauty and she could put it all together, and she was always busy doing good things. So you were, mesmerized by what the good work she was doing, but she looked like a porcelain doll. And I really think I really appreciated how she tried so hard. She tried to, she tried to elevate style and fashion in the city, and she did. And so we miss her.
I think I heard, I did hear that she had some dresses that belonged to Ginger Rogers.
Yes.
That her husband bought her because she was a collector and loved those kinds of things. So hopefully those fall into good hands now. And she was quite a force in the city.
Mm-hmm. And fashion was part of that, fashion and art and design. And she was creating sweaters at one point, I remember, and selling them to Saks Fifth Avenue, selling them in Los Angeles.
Yes.
And making them with her hands. And anyway, she was an icon. You asked that question. And you, of course. Cool. And you.
Oh, no, that's
not.
So what do you think the connection is, speaking of Alexis and speaking of, yourself and these, powerhouse women, and what do you see as the connection between fashion and feminism?
Well, that's a story too. Because
30 seconds.
Okay, I'll try to. I can say that I remember when I was very young and I was going to a speaking engagement at King's College, and I was an ardent feminist already by this point, but I liked my red nail polish and my high heel shoes. And I can remember being a bit of a target for criticism that day, but it's endured.
Because you had red nail and they thought you were being,
objectified or objectifying. Right. I mean, there's always that. And I myself have at times really taken issue with the fashion trends of the day, particularly exploitative fashion trends where women feel they have to walk around without practically any clothing at all. Like, it's pure objectification by the fashion industry. So, but there is a thing about, you can do it without being exploited, I would say, and use it as an empowerment thing. I mean, why it to be creative, to be yourself, to enjoy beautiful things, to have an expression of who you are, frees you really. And so to me, it's a sign of women's strength that they're able to appear in any fashion whatsoever, no pun intended or pun intended, like they can be, it's the same as gender fluidity, like power resides in being yourself. So there's no need to conform to any beauty standard and absolutely no need to conform to any trend or fashion standard. It's about individuality and expression.
I think that's such a brilliant answer. And I think this 2024, where we're in, I know that this won't air for another, for a while, but the standards and the fashion and the trends and the, they are so ever changing, and it's like built-in obsolescence. How can you wear that when that's so yesterday? Or how can you wear, if any of us now were to try and keep up with the trend, then it would take away from your ability to read and do your job and maintain relationships. And I mean, it's this almost chaos of of consumerism.
Mm-hmm. And the churn of fashion, and it's meant to suck people in. I can never believe the expense involved in makeup, for example. Now, I don't know how these young women can afford to go to some of these exclusive makeup shops. The amount, that I think is spent in those shops, and that young women, I just don't want people to feel the pressure to be or do anything. And I just want to say one thing. I want to say one thing. I love Taylor Swift. And why do I love her? Because she's so healthy, right? She's physically robust. She doesn't feel like she has to perform a sex act when she's on stage in order to be successful. And she lives a healthy lifestyle. And she's just an amazing person. And she's a feminist.
Right.
And a progressive, unabashed. She is who she is. And what a great role model for young women. And she's, of course, brilliant, genius, and creative, and makes more money than all the boys. So, she's doing it all.
Right. So when I was going to say, so what can we do to change that? But I guess, there's these young people who are going to be carrying the flag, and, you have a new granddaughter. I have a new granddaughter. So it's about modeling behaviors and modeling things that,
Yeah. And I think that, necessity breeds creativity. People can't afford to go, most people can't afford to go and buy the high-end designer clothes. Who wants them anyway?
Right.
So we can all learn how to enjoy ourselves in this world of fashion, aesthetics, design. Me, I'm gardening now as trying a Japanese garden. We can do all these things.
Right.
They're not really expensive endeavors. Most people can do it at some level by allowing themselves the freedom to be creative.
Right. Do you know who, I'm sure I can say this without it being a problem, who got your Romeo Gili gold lame, beautiful, spectacular coat? I don't know if I told you this.
No, I don't know.
A very, very famous drag queen.
Ooh.
Like a very famous drag queen came to the store. I was away, unfortunately, and Natasha was just, fangirling all over the place. But they just made a straight beeline for that coat. And so that coat is now walking the walk, and hopefully we will see it on TV one of these days, and I'll have to
yes, so exciting. See, this is a healthy churn of fashion.
Yes. Yeah. So I am just forever grateful that you came and that you sat and chatted with me, and I know that you were
okay, I have to say, for 2 years I was refusing because I'm nervous in front of the camera and I don't like to be public, but I do love Angela and her aesthetic and her principles and her values. I love Angela and I love Swish, and it's been a solace for me for many years. So
thank you.
Anyway, trepidation aside, I've enjoyed myself today. So thank you.
Thanks for coming. This means the world.
Thanks.